Hey folks, this is Billy DKY, the truth seeker that simplifies and demystifies. Today we're going to be talking about dealing with thoughts, and we're going to start off talking about constructive thought processes. So what is a constructive thought process? A constructive thought process is a thought process that leads to something constructive. What are the characteristics of a constructive thought process? The characteristics of a constructive thought process are typically it's brief in nature, it leads to positive results, and third, it leaves your mind at peace. That's not really what I want to talk about in this video. The next section is what I really want to talk about. What is a destructive thought process? It's a thought process that doesn't lead to anything constructive, so therefore it should be avoided. What are the characteristics of a constructive thought process? Well, it's sort of the opposite of a constructive one. Notice we said brief is a constructive thought process. Well, that's typically not what happens in a destructive one. It's not brief. It just goes on and just runs and runs and runs. Second characteristic is it typically leads to negative results. You're usually in a worse place by going through this thought process than you were by not dealing with it or not having it go through your mind. And the end result typically is confusion. So notice it's the exact opposite of a constructive one. So let's talk about how does a destructive thought process get started. And it's real simple, as it always is. It begins with one thought. One thought branches off into three thoughts. Three thoughts branch off into 9 thoughts, and that process continues on until your mind is totally consumed with thoughts and emotions. And again, the end result is confusion. So the question is, how do you prevent destructive thought processes? Well, it's real simple. Again, it begins with the first thought. When that thought comes up, you ask yourself, is this thought going to lead to something constructive, or is it destructive? I mean, if you're sitting there, if it's going to lead to all kinds of worrying and emotions, then it's not going to lead to anything positive. So you should avoid it. Here's another question I really like to ask myself. Is this thought coming from an emotion or an intuitive calculation? If it's coming from an intuitive calculation, then typically it will be a constructive thought process. In fact, I don't think I've ever had one. It didn't lead to something constructive. However, if it's coming from an emotion, it doesn't have to be a particular emotion, but it could be aggression, anger, hatred. That's typically going to lead you down the wrong road, and it's going to lead to more thoughts, more emotions, and again, your mind's going to be consumed with either some emotion / confusion with it. So the next question is, how do you stop a destructive thought process once it gets started? Well, once it starts gaining steam, the more steam it gains, the harder it's going to be to stop. So the sooner you can recognize you're in a destructive thought process, the quicker you can put the brakes on it. So let's say you get down the road and you're caught up in it. How do you stop it? Again, first you recognize it. Once you recognize it, then you need an effective technique to put the brakes on. Well, how do you do that, So that's the next question. How do you put the brakes on a destructive thought process? And it's actually extremely simple. It's everything I tell you is real simple. However, it's hard to apply. You take your awareness out of your thoughts, and you put it in one of your 5 senses. So what I like to do typically is take a walk, feel the breeze on my skin, don't participate any longer in those thoughts, and just feel your skin, look at things. If you need to go in the yard, take your shoes off and feel the grass beneath your feet, feel the ground, look at the birds, look at the bugs, hear the birds, just sense things, because your senses is your home base. Your senses keep you in reality. Your thoughts quickly pull you out of reality and take you into some delusional thought process of your mind. That's what you want. You want to avoid it. Again, your senses is your home base. Oh, don't get me wrong. It will be hard to keep your attention in your senses if you've got down that destructive thought process a while. It will take a lot of, you'll have to put a lot of effort in it to keep your attention in your senses, because those thoughts are going to keep wanting to drag you in there and get you worrying and stressing and stuff like that. It's going to take time to settle. Okay. So I think we've pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. However, I got a few miscellaneous things I want to talk about. The price of freedom is constant vigilance. That is, vigilance over the thoughts that you allow to go through your mind. If you allow just any old thought to go through your mind, you will be a slave to those thoughts. You will not know peace. Discipline is the root of peace. If you're not going to discipline your mind and discipline the thoughts that go through it, you will have a very emotional, confused life. Notice that the solution wasn't more thinking. The solution was less thinking, and that solution was less thinking by keeping your attention in one of your senses. Anyway, that's all I have to say. If you don't mind, please rate the video, and later, folks.